My name is Sasha Chen, and what I'm about to tell you is a story about betrayal, survival, and the sweetest revenge I never planned on taking. 7 years. That's 2,555 days of believing I was building towards something real at Sterling and Associates. I trusted these people not in the casual way you trust co-workers, but in the deep, vulnerable way where you let them shape your identity, your dreams, your sense of self-worth. Richard Sterling was my mentor. He had this way of making you feel seen, valued, like you were part of something bigger than yourself. "Sasha, you're the future of this company," he'd say, his hand on my shoulder, his voice warm with conviction. I'd hold those words in my chest like a sacred promise, pulling them out on the hard days when I stayed until midnight finishing a pitch, or when I made impossible choices like missing my sister's wedding for a client deadline. I told myself it would all be worth it. I was investing in my future. The creative director position was supposed to be mine. Everyone knew it. The partners knew it. The junior staff knew it. I knew it with the kind of certainty you feel in your bones. The Cascade campaign I'd created from scratch had won 3 major industry awards. Clients specifically requested me by name. My portfolio was undeniable, my track record flawless. When Richard called me into his office that Tuesday afternoon, I thought we were celebrating. I'd even stopped by the bakery that morning to grab his favorite lemon scones. The ones he always said reminded him of his grandmother. Instead, he told me they'd chosen Derek Hartman. Derek, someone who'd joined the company 2 years after me, someone who'd never created anything original in his life, who coasted on other people's ideas and knew exactly whose ego to stroke in every meeting. Why? The word came out small, broken. I hated how small my voice sounded, like I was shrinking right there in his leather chair. Richard sighed, doing that thing where he took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose like this was harder for him than it was for me. "Derek just fits the leadership profile we need right now. You understand, right, Sasha? You're still incredibly valuable to us. Indispensable, really." I said yes. I said I understood, but I didn't. I couldn't. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, still in my work clothes, and felt something inside me collapse. Not anger, not yet. Not rage or fire or any of those clean, powerful emotions. Just a deep, aching sense that maybe I'd been wrong about everything. About my talent, my worth, my place in the world. The next few months were a masterclass in pretending. I smiled in meetings. I said congratulations to Derek with what I hoped looked like genuine warmth. I kept working because I didn't know what else to do. Because stopping would mean admitting something had broken that I didn't know how to fix. But inside, I was unraveling thread by thread. My best friend Jennifer stopped meeting me for coffee. She'd say she was busy, but I'd see her Instagram stories, lunch with Derek's team, drinks after work with people who used to be my friends too. I wanted to ask her why, but I was terrified of the answer. Maybe I'd become someone people avoided. Maybe I'd always been that person and just never noticed. Then came the meeting that changed everything. 6 weeks after Derek's promotion, we gathered in the main conference room for what he called a game-changing pitch for the Morrison account, a luxury automotive client worth millions in billings. As Derek clicked through his presentation with practiced confidence, I felt my blood turn ice cold. They were my slides, my concept, my exact words. I'd worked on that campaign for weeks, staying late into the night, pouring every creative insight I had into the strategy. I'd even emailed Derek a preliminary deck 2 weeks earlier when he'd asked to see what I was thinking for the Morrison pitch. I'd trusted him. God, I'd actually trusted him. I started. my voice cracking in the silent room. "That's my work," Derek laughed. Not cruelly, just casually, like I'd made a funny joke he was generously indulging. "Come on, Sasha. We all collaborate here. No one owns ideas. That's what makes us a team." Richard nodded, his face carefully neutral. "Let's not make this awkward. Derek's doing a great job pulling together everyone's contributions." I looked around the table. Jennifer was studying her laptop screen. Marcus, who I'd trained when he first started, was nodding along enthusiastically. No one met my eyes. No one said a word in my defense. I left the meeting and locked myself in the bathroom, crying for 20 minutes. Not dignified tears, ugly, shaking sobs that left my mascara running and my throat raw. Because it wasn't just about the presentation. It was about realizing that 7 years of my life, 7 years of trust and effort and belief, had been built on absolutely nothing. I stopped eating properly. I'd come home and sit on my couch, staring at nothing, replaying every interaction, every decision, wondering where I'd gone so catastrophically wrong. My mother called every few days, her voice tight with worry. "Sasha, you sound different. Are you okay?" I lied and said I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was disappearing, dissolving into someone I didn't recognize, and I didn't know how to stop it. I quit 6 months later, not because I was strong or brave, but because I couldn't keep bleeding in that place, couldn't keep pretending the wounds weren't there. Richard called it a surprising decision. Jennifer sent a text, "Hope you're okay," with a sad emoji. No one fought for me to stay. No one asked me to reconsider. I packed up my desk on a Friday afternoon when most people were already mentally checked out for the weekend. 7 years fit into 2 cardboard boxes. The year that followed was the hardest of my life. I freelanced, barely scraping together enough to cover rent. I questioned everything: my skills, my judgment, my worth as a creative professional and as a human being. Had I imagined my own talent? Was I delusional to think I'd mattered? Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Other days I'd work 16 hours straight just to avoid thinking about how empty I felt. How fundamentally I'd been broken by people I'd trusted. I was angry at them, furious in a way that burned behind my ribs. But mostly I was angry at myself for trusting, for believing, for being naive enough to think loyalty meant anything in a world built on ambition and opportunism. But here's what they didn't know, what they couldn't have predicted. I kept every file, every email, every draft with timestamps. Every piece of work I'd ever created at Sterling and Associates was backed up in 3 different places. Not because I planned anything, I'm not that calculating, but because I'm paranoid about losing work. It's a habit from my first internship when a hard drive crashed and I lost weeks of projects, and I started building something in the wreckage of what they'd destroyed. It took 2 years of grinding, of working with small clients who valued honesty over politics, of slowly, painfully rebuilding my confidence. I started Chen Creative, a boutique agency focused on what I called authentic brand storytelling. Just me at first, then 1 employee, then 3. We weren't big, we weren't fancy, but we were good, really good. I worked with startups and mid-sized companies that had been ignored by the big agencies. I gave them the same fierce dedication I'd once given Sterling and Associates, except this time it was appreciated. My clients became advocates. Word spread quietly through industry networks. Then Morrison Automotive called. You remember Morrison, the luxury car client Derek had stolen my campaign for? Apparently, Derek's execution had been lackluster. The campaign had launched to mediocre results, and Morrison was looking for a new agency. Their CMO, Patricia Chen, no relation, though we joked about it, had seen some of my recent work. "I want something bold," she said in our first meeting. "Something that actually takes risks instead of just talking about innovation." I knew exactly what to pitch, because I still had my original Morrison concept, the real one, the one Derek had bastardized. I'd refined it over 2 years, made it sharper, more daring. We won the account. And here's where the story gets interesting. The campaign we created for Morrison didn't just succeed, it exploded. It went viral in ways that shocked even me. Within 3 months, Morrison's brand perception scores had jumped 40%. Sales increased. The campaign won Campaign of the Year at the Global Advertising Awards. Suddenly, Chen Creative wasn't small anymore. We were the agency everyone wanted to work with. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. My team grew to 15 people, then 30. We moved into a real office with windows and everything, and Sterling and Associates. They noticed. Richard reached out first, of course. An email that started with "I always knew you had it in you" and ended with a lunch invitation. I deleted it. Then Derek called. Left a voicemail about catching up and exploring potential collaborations. I blocked his number. But Jennifer surprised me. She showed up at my office on a rainy Thursday afternoon, looking exhausted and smaller than I remembered. Sterling had let her go 3 months earlier as part of restructuring. She'd been trying to make it as a freelancer and failing. "Sasha, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you." I was scared. I thought if I stayed close to Derek, I'd be safe. But she broke down crying. "I was wrong about everything. I abandoned you when you needed me. And I have to live with that." Part of me wanted to shut the door in her face, to let her feel even a fraction of what I'd felt. But a bigger part remembered being scared too, remembered how fear can make you betray your own values. I let her in, made her tea, listened. I didn't forgive her, not fully. Not yet. Forgiveness is complicated and takes time. But I hired her as a contractor for a small project. She needed work, and despite everything, I knew she was talented. "I don't expect us to be friends again," she said quietly. "I just needed you to know I was wrong. I appreciate that." I told her, and I meant it. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for without realizing I'd been waiting for it. Sterling and Associates started losing clients. First Morrison, obviously. Then 3 others who'd worked with me and realized what they'd been missing. Derek's campaigns kept underperforming. The agency's reputation was slipping. Richard called again. This time I answered. "Sasha, I think we made a mistake," he said, his voice careful. "We'd like to discuss bringing you back. Partner track, full creative control, significant equity stake. Name your terms." I let the silence stretch out, remembering every humiliation, every stolen idea, every time they'd made me feel small. "Richard," I said finally, my voice steady and calm, "I'm not interested in coming back, but I am interested in acquiring Sterling and Associates." The silence on his end was profound. "Your client roster has been hemorrhaging for 18 months, I continued. "Your best creatives have left. Your reputation is damaged. Chen Creative is now worth approximately 4 times what Sterling is. I'm prepared to make an offer, but it would mean you stepping down. Derek too, obviously." "You can't be serious." "I'm extremely serious. You taught me that business isn't personal, remember? This is just business. You have 1 week to consider. After that, the offer expires and I start actively recruiting your remaining talent." He tried to argue, made appeals to our history, to mentorship, to loyalty, all the things he'd ignored when it mattered. I hung up. 3 days later, His lawyers called mine. The acquisition took 4 months to finalize. It was complicated and exhausting, but when the papers were signed, Sterling and Associates became a subsidiary of Chen Creative. Richard was offered a consultant position with no real power. He declined and retired instead. Derek left the industry entirely last I heard. He was selling real estate. I didn't gloat, didn't send petty emails or make scenes. I just kept building, kept creating, kept proving that the talent they'd dismissed was real and valuable. Here's what I learned. Revenge, when it comes, isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about building something so undeniably good that the people who dismissed you have to watch it succeed. Sometimes it's about becoming the person they said you couldn't be. Jennifer is now a full-time employee at Chen Creative. She's a senior art director, and she's good at it. Our friendship is different now, quieter, more careful, but it's rebuilding. Trust takes time to grow back. My sister got married again last year, long story. Her first marriage didn't work out, and this time I was there, front row, ugly crying during the vows. Because I learned something else. No job, no matter how important it seems, is worth missing the people who actually matter. Chen Creative is now one of the top 15 agencies in the city. We have clients I used to dream about working with. But more importantly, we have a culture where people's ideas are protected, where credit goes to the right people, where loyalty is reciprocated. Last month, I was keynoting an industry conference, talking about ethical leadership in creative agencies. I looked out at the audience and saw some familiar faces from Sterling. They were taking notes. After the speech, a young creative came up to me, her eyes nervous but determined. "Miss Chen, I just left my agency because they took credit for my work. Everyone says I'm throwing away my career, but I couldn't stay there anymore." I looked at this young woman, saw myself 7 years ago, and felt something shift in my chest. "You're not throwing anything away," I told her. "You're choosing yourself. That's not career suicide. That's survival. Here's my card. Send me your portfolio." She's starting at Chen Creative next month. Here's the truth I'm still learning. Some wounds don't heal completely. Some betrayals stay with you, leaving scars that ache on certain days. And that's okay. You don't have to turn pain into a neat narrative about strength. Sometimes pain is just pain, and surviving it is enough. But if you're patient, if you keep working, if you refuse to let the people who hurt you define your worth, sometimes the universe has a way of balancing the scales. Not always, not fairly, but sometimes. I didn't set out to get revenge on Sterling and Associates. I set out to survive, to rebuild, to prove to myself that what they took from me, my confidence, my trust, my sense of self, could be reclaimed. The revenge was just a bonus. If you're in that dark place right now, if someone made you question your worth, if you're struggling to trust yourself or anyone else, I want you to know, what happened to you wasn't your fault. Your trust wasn't weakness. Your vulnerability wasn't failure. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to take your time healing, but don't give up on yourself. Don't let them convince you that their betrayal means something fundamental about your value as a human being. Keep your files. Document your work. Build your escape plan, even if you're not sure where it's leading. And one day, maybe sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize you've built something they can never take away. A life that's genuinely, authentically yours. That's not just revenge. That's justice. That's reclamation. That's winning. I'm Sasha Chen, founder and CEO of Chen Creative, and this is how I survived, rebuilt, and won. Not by becoming like them, but by becoming more fully myself than I ever could have been in their shadow. The best revenge, it turns out, is building something so beautiful, so successful, so undeniably yours that the people who broke you are forced to recognize what they lost and then moving on anyway. Because you've got better things to do than dwell on the past. That's my story. What's yours going to be?